we're ready.
Go ahead.
Okay. Good evening, board members. The case before you today, as mentioned, is at 1665 Ben Lomond Drive. The applicant is proposing to demolish the existing 1,868 square foot single-story house and detached garage and replace it with a new 2,785 square foot two-story house and a detached garage also. The house will be set back 33 feet from the front property line in keeping with the existing setback. The garage will be located at the rear of the property with additional storage and an attached patio. The property is located on a 9,296 square foot lot in the R1 low density residential zone with floor area ratio District 1, which is a 0.30 floor area ratio for the first 10,000 square feet. The new house will be compatible with the existing neighborhood in terms of mass, scale, and architectural style and materials. The proposed work includes a 1,530 square foot first floor, which includes living room, dining, family room, kitchen, half bath, and rear patio. The second floor is 1,255 square feet and includes 3 bedrooms and 3 bathrooms. And then I mentioned before, the two-car garage is at the rear and includes an attached storage and patio. The existing property is located near the southwest corner of Cumberland Road and Ben Lomond Drive in the Brockmont neighborhood. The project site is irregularly shaped, while most of the other properties in the neighborhood are rectangular shaped. Most of the homes are in the neighborhood 1- and 2-story, predominantly Spanish colonial revival style, and range in size from about 1,400 square feet to about 4,300 square feet. The average house size is 2,388 square feet, and the proposal is for 2,785 square feet. So it's slightly larger than the average house size in that area. The average floor area ratio is 0.21, and the proposal is 0.30, which is the maximum allowed. The existing house is 25 feet 5 inches in height, and the proposed house will be 28 feet in height. In terms of site planning, staff found that the site planning is appropriate, as the 2-story house will be set back 33 feet from the property line and will retain the existing street front setback. The garage driveway location will remain the same and also in keeping with the neighborhood pattern. Additionally, site grading will allow the house to be built closer to the street level, helping mitigate its mass. Regarding mass and scale, we also found that it was appropriate as modified with the condition. This is due to the fact that the second floor is set back from the first floor to modulate the front facade and push the second floor mass back from the street. And as mentioned, site grading allows the house to be pushed lower than existing house, helping mitigate the 2-story volume, as seen by the property to the north. A condition is recommended to enhance the articulation of the second floor of the north facade to help break up the massing. In terms of design and detailing, the design we feel is appropriate. The design is influenced by Spanish colonial and Mediterranean revival styles, which are appropriate for this eclectic neighborhood. The 3 openings at the ground floor, the front facade, we feel is too balanced, and recommending consideration of substituting windows for the French doors at the left. Staff received 1 comment concerning the construction of this house happening at the same time that Glendale Water and Power will be redoing these street lines, sewer lines. I spoke with the Glendale Water and Power. This will occur it's scheduled to occur in February through April of 2016. And they were willing to work with the property owner to coordinate construction and their work. Staff is recommending approval of the project with conditions stated in the staff report. I'll now conclude my presentation unless you want me to go over the suggested conditions.
Mr. Chairman,
go over the conditions?
yeah, I wanted a clarification, Mr. Chairman, on one of the conditions. On the first condition, is the redesigning of the north facade. Is that correct? It's the north facade that you find to be, in need of mitigation of mass?
Yes.
Okay.
Well, because if we look, it has the flattest.
I see.
Side, it doesn't go in as much. And I just want to point out one more thing. The colored elevation drawings were submitted prior to the black and white drawings on the left. There were the front window was changed on that one. If you could see, the grids were taken out. Mostly, pretty much. Actually, the one on the left, the black and white, is the current proposal. We just wanted to provide the color for you.
The lattices have been...
But your condition states that the articulation or the windows, you recommend that those two French doors change to windows, correct?
Correct.
But that, you say that was current, so still proposing a French door.
Yes. It was just the window on the right that was changed.
Do you have a section or a topo map on this?
I do not. I don't believe the architect.
We do have
No,
there's the elevation drawing that shows the two adjacent properties that gives you some of the information that a section would, but we neglected to get the section. So.
I could show you.
I'm just questioning that the new proposed wall that he's excavating there.
Sorry.
No, there's an excavation taking place.
I just, before you,
Sure.
this shows in relationship to the
Yeah, I saw that.
adjacent homes. Oh, okay, with the overlay of the existing house on that.
Any questions? You have questions for? I have no questions. I'll open the public hearing. I'm going to go. I see some people at the audience. If you wish to speak, you need to turn on your. I got that. So is that it? Okay. I have the applicant, Mr. Zohrabian. Yeah.
I think Mr. Zohrabian is not the one.
Good evening. My name is Hamlet Zohrabian. I'm the project architect. For the record, my address is 3467 Ocean View Boulevards, Suite B in Glendale. I'll begin to say that this particular property, it's sloping from north to south direction. And adjacent properties to the north is that property that you were actually seeing there, the adjoining property to the north. That would be then the right-hand side. Mm-hmm. There is a level difference of about 7 feet right now. So I have pictures and everything in my phone right now that I can show it to you, but that's what it is. There's a 7 feet difference there. And the existing house, although it's a one-story building, but it's built, I'm pretty much sure you have the photographs and you've seen it. But it's built with a very tall roof, one-to-one slope, and actually the entry level is about 5 steps on top of the first street the street level. As the driveway starts sloping down, virtually the difference is about 10 steps. As you can see on the side of the existing building, there are 10 steps there. I try to depict it on the street section and profile that I've shown on top portion there. So what I'm trying to say is the existing single-story house is built with a very huge attic underneath, which we try to take advantage of that. So as it goes in the back of the property, then you can see on the north side you have a higher elevation than the south side elevation. These are important because I'm trying to explain to you how we went to take advantage of these aspects of the site, the characteristics of the site rather, to be able to kind of bring down the house and work as much as possible to minimize, if you will, the impact or the mass. And that's in the report. So what we have done, first of all, we have actually pushed building down for just about the equivalent of the 8 steps that you see there. So we are actually coming into the house at a lower level. Right now, from the street going to the first level of the existing house, it's bermed up about 30 inches or 36 inches. But then on the side of the driveway, when you're going up, there's another level difference of 3 feet. So what is happening, instead of keeping the first floor of the existing building, we are actually proposing to lower that. So actually, we're taking the 2-story volume and lowering down. And doing that, we have created, because we have such a deep front setback, we've created an open courtyard as you're coming in. So you have a couple of steps going down, 3 steps going down, and then 2 steps coming up to the entrance. So you're entering to that level that is specified there, which is an outside courtyard within the front setback. That's what the grading that he was referring to. So we calculated that grading. That grading alone in that area is about 120 cubic yard of grading, which I've calculated it there. So this way, we have a 2-story building that is pushed down, if you will, to make it more at the level of the rear side of the project, where you're going into your backyard and the swimming pool, so you don't necessarily to have a lot of steps there. You see, right now, if you look at the existing building, you have a 10-step on the south side of the building going up to a landing. That's where actually the first level starts. So that's a very important item there. So we looked at the massing of the existing building itself, and as you know, on the left side, which is on the south side corner, the building is completely massed up, going up with no articulation. So we have taken that, and the second floor, we have set it back further from the first floor. The entire second floor is set back 7.5 feet from the first floor in general. Then in that location, on the southeast corner, we have created a small 1-story turret, which is further set back about 10 feet, 9 foot 9 inches to be exact. So total setback, as you would see on your plans, when it gets to the turret, you're talking about close to 17 feet of setback from the first floor. So we have played around with the first and second floor to have that articulation. And we worked with, obviously, the studio. And there were a few comments, and which we had gone back and forth a couple of times to make that work for, as you see right now, it's articulated. The comment that was mentioned that this is an upgraded version is because one of the conditions was to show the downspouts, and that includes the downspouts that we have picked up. And that was one of the comments was, or conditions rather, was that the picture window in the front, it's preferable if you don't have the grids in them. So that's what we have eliminated that. I'm personally myself, I like the grids there, and I like it because it's a picture window. Could have been a very nice metal grid, which is very classy. The other condition that was suggested was to have the entry door to have a side light and a single door, which we kind of like to have double door. It is more to us more keeping with the Spanish style, and that's why we decided to keep it. Certain comments from the studio we have already incorporated into that set that you see there, which we wanted to make sure that will go into the presentation, and that's what we've done. There was a clarification on the French doors underneath the loggia in the back, which the clarification is because they're not 2 sets of doors, but these are rather kind of bifold French doors that goes on the one side, but we've put it right in the center of the 2 arches. So that is why you have one of the panels there, which is behind the archway on the back side. So the building itself, it sits on a pad that is lower than the existing house. The existing house height we have depicted compared to the other 2 structures on the sides of it. And the way it sits, the top of the ridge of the existing house, it's exactly level with the house, 1-story house to the north of it, existing. The proposed one, will have 30 inches higher than that, if you will. 30 inches higher than that. So that is why, if you look at the depiction of your story poles and temporary poles, you will see you don't see so much in the front is because that whole mass there, we are carving it out. So the new building is definitely going to have this articulation and modulation that the first building didn't have. As far as the comment on the north side, again, a comment was made about I think the 3/4 of the end of the wall, if you will, which we have a fireplace in the center. So that was there. It was suggested to have a sort of a brick in that introduced. We left it that way because the next door neighbor's property, it's actually 7 foot higher than our pad, and we felt that is not, that is not going to be insufficient, to put it in the right way. So, but if the board feels that we need articulation there, we have on the second floor we have closets that we can actually recess a little bit. But we do have articulation definitely in the front. Then we have also the fireplace that is replacing the existing fireplace that there is. And we have fenestrations, minimized fenestrations, because we don't want to necessarily introduce any balconies, any large windows overlooking our neighbors. So that's done very, I would say, tastefully, not to impose on the privacy of the neighbors. In the back side, we just generally have our garage, which is pushed back. The existing garage is kind of near to the street frontage, but that's going to be demolished, and a new one will be built behind. The driveway location will remain the same, but the existing concrete driveway will be replaced by interlocking pavers, which will be permeable on the sand. As far as the details are concerned, we're going to be using pretty nice in color, high quality materials. Smooth plaster is proposed here. The roof eaves would be tongue and groove wood with wood corbels. And only on the large windows in front, we're going to be introducing a precast surround very selectively, especially the one that is picture window. But the rest of the windows, we're not planning to do any precast around them, but it's just going to be bull-nosed in, but deep set windows. So they're going to be actually deeper than normal windows there. And the roof, obviously, it is a mission tile. One-piece mission tile clay, basically it will be landscaped. We have included our landscaping there. We introduced some mature trees on the south side, along with a proposed plastered wall, which will help actually screening our driveway and separating our driveway from the adjacent south side driveway. I'll be available if you have any other questions, but I trust that I explained. If you have any questions.
Okay, so I appreciate the very detailed presentation. One of the things that it's missing for me that I actually went there and walked in the back and I looked everywhere is a site survey.
Okay.
It's calling out here that you have a 6-foot wall, concrete wall along the back, which is on the north side. And then it's also calling out a 4-foot wall along the south side, which they weren't there. So the question is that there's actually a small little retaining wall, which I have the photo. If you want, I can show it to you. But there's a small little wall that is here. And from this entire back area, it's literally, and I couldn't figure out what the elevation is, but it was pretty tall. So I agree with you, 6 or 7 feet.
7 feet.
And it was like slumping over, it's just basically a sloped dirt here. I didn't see any walls per se as far as a fence wall, solid fence wall, nor I saw anything here. This was more of a curve. That adjacent grade kind of sloped down, so you had like a 6-inch curve along here. The question that I have is that you're calling out an existing 6-foot wall, and it seems like, and I can't tell the grade elevations and so forth. So the question that I have is that, how do you, well, this is not correct, right? I'm assuming.
But
Oh, it is.
it's correct.
So the
That's
question
not the
is
house.
that,
It's, yeah.
the question is that if this is a retaining wall and you're keeping this, assuming that, because from this point to this point, it's fairly high, it's steep, I mean, it's sloping
Stopping
higher.
6%.
And then as you go up, it feels that it's going up as well.
Bermed.
But then over here, you're showing on your elevation is pretty flat along here. I'm not
He's
sure
grading that.
what is.
He's
no.
grading that whole end. No, that's why he's creating a new wall. You look-
Well, no, the elevation is here, so he has a higher elevation
Yeah,
because
but
if
this
this
is
is a
this
re-
floor. This floor is here.
right. So he's actually raising this. But my question is that if this thing is higher, how do you plan to deal with the elevation change here? Because there's a like over here right now, the way you've drawn this should be the same level as that because you're at the level area. And if you are actually sloping down to come down to the level of the first level, that means you're creating a 7-foot retaining wall here.
No, if I can come over there,
Sure.
if you allow me, I can
Please.
explain it to you.
Please.
It's
As you're up there, Mr. Zarabi, can you clarify? Are you grading here? Are you
Okay.
removing all this?
no, we're not. We're not. I can explain what is happening. The existing, sometimes if you see there's a typo that says existing supposed to be proposed fence wall. So right now we're proposing a fence wall over here. I apologize if it says existing.
Okay.
But however, the way it is, that's why I tried to, I didn't have enough time to actually explain as far, very much detail as far as the site is concerned. But it's very unique. There's a 6% slope from here to there. That's why I actually put down point elevations here so we can compare. Then this thing is berming up about 30 inches, I would say, goes to this point over here, there. Then you have a flat area over here, and then it just diminishes. Then we have a retaining wall, existing retaining wall, which is over here, coming all the way to there, as you said, and then it turns. Then there is a fence existing right now, fence on the property line, which is not a solid fence. We have, I think, some sort of a...
This
yeah.
is the picture that I took. That's standing right here. That's standing right here and looking back towards that.
Yeah, in the back, yeah, there's, yeah, I have another picture to show you too.
Yeah. For the record, is that a chain link fence or?
I didn't see any fence, it's just.
It's covered with vegetation, whatever.
So there's
Yeah,
something
exactly.
holding up?
Are we
This
allowed
is-
to do this?
this is the picture.
Phone picture? Is that
I
right?
mean, you can.
We can submit into the record.
I can
Please
send it
email
to
that
you
to
if you guys
Kathy.
wanna put it on
This
there.
is the fence we talked. There's a chain link fence
But
with
there's a
a,
wall here also.
there's a very lower wall.
Let's make sure that both of these pictures are added to the
I will email
record.
this to you so you can, I have 3 photos, I'll send it to you so you can put
Yeah.
it in.
Okay.
That picture that you shared, that needs to be added to the record.
I will. The fact of the matter is that there is not an existing property line fence wall, period, over here.
Yeah.
It's kind of fence
The question,
wall.
no, I understand that. The question is that if, assuming that whatever the elevation that you've indicated,
Yes.
and if this is going to be flat, that means this whole dirt is being pushed against the property line. I just want to know what is the plan along the property line? Is
Okay.
it going to be a
Up to here, there is a difference of level that, as you're saying. As it starts going back to the back side of it basically starts leveling up on the north side. On the south side, rather, it slopes down again. So in other words, this is a deeper area over here than top. You know what I mean?
our
Existing.
the existing. But-
Yes, yeah.
Well, we're talking about, and then I have questions here, but
Yeah.
the top, so if, let's say, at this point, this level grade is being pushed against the property line, what happens on the property line?
If it's more than 3 feet, for instance, then we have to put a retaining wall, but we're not touching that. What it is happening is that if this is high, which we are intent to keep it high, okay, when it comes over there, for the change our level, we might introduce some steps that will come down. But as it comes over here, clearly, we're getting very close to the same level. You see, that's what I'm trying to say. It is going to be a difference maybe about
So you're
24
raising
inches.
the finish
Well,
higher?
we are, in the back, the swimming pool area is raised to meet the inside level, but not
You
that
said
much.
the inside level is being lower than the
Yes.
The
existing.
grade, so there's a great difference
There's
between
a
the
great
adjacent
difference.
grade to the finished floor.
Yes.
So if I'm looking at it in section, if this is, right here, then there's a retaining wall, part of the house, your grade beyond is somewhere in here.
That's right.
Okay.
That's right. It's
Okay.
like that. And so what I'm saying is,
So
as
you're
far
not-
as structurally, if we,
So, yeah, I
if
mean,
we,
so-
if we decide to do the retaining wall underneath our exterior wall, that's one way of doing it, but we need to kind of keep that set. But the transition could be even steps. I haven't shown that there. Frankly, it's a very bushy area there, and you
Do you
cannot
have any
actually.
building sections that cuts through the building to show us what is happening, like within the building itself?
I asked for that, they don't have it.
Well, I have a picture of our section.
No,
I have all
let's
the
not-
drawings.
Let's not
do
keep
that.
doing that because,
Let me send this before I forget.
yeah, let's make sure
The floor levels of the building are flat at all levels. The section through the building will show flat floor plates. The site section obviously has changes. And I think I'm starting to word a condition that we will ask for clarification about site slopes and how perimeter walls will either be retaining or actually walls, ultimately, if the board wants to go in that direction, so.
Sure. Okay, I'm sorry.
You have 3 steps in here, Mrs. Arabian, but this whole house is all flat. Even this part, 691, this is all flat. So
Yes.
how does the transition from here work with this? I mean, I couldn't read the grade elevations,
Right.
but you see here, you have 6 9, you got about a foot difference from this driveway to that. I'm assuming this is a planter, you raise it
It
up.
is planter.
To be lower.
Yeah, so, but what happens, I mean, in here, because you're gonna have a slope there,
Yeah, there is a slope. This is sloping.
yeah.
There's sloping about 6%.
So in reality, what you're doing is just cutting this triangular piece of dirt, create this whole path. And this essentially, this whole thing, all the way to the back.
All the way to this extent,
To that
wherever
extent.
it's
Yeah,
yes,
to
where
that
the house
extent.
goes, where the house goes. Yeah.
okay.
Because when it comes to the end of it,
When it
you
reaches
don't have that
level
much of
level
you don't
seven,
have
okay.
that much of differential. So over here, actually, that the fence will take over. You know what I mean?
Well, then, you may need retaining wall there.
Perhaps like a 4-foot retaining wall. But right now, there is a small retaining wall there.
Okay. Go ahead, Mr. Churchill.
Thank you. So I was going to start off by asking a color question. I'll save that for later. So if we look at this here, will there or will there not be a step down for the pool deck? Or
There
will
will
the pool
be-
deck be at this level here?
The pool deck is over here at this level. This is the ground level that, with the best we can depict, that is
Sure.
existing. And this, by the way, it's sloped from the other property.
Sure,
line.
of
So it's
course,
like kind of
yeah.
it's sloping.
Yeah.
So this is the difference here. Maybe in the bottom of it, it's about 3 feet. That's the way we estimate. So when it comes over here, it gets a little bit.
I think you'll benefit from a survey because
definitely will.
I also went on site and there seemed to be lots of variation
In the back.
in the back.
I will do that survey.
In the back, yeah. And then also look at. Have you looked at the back side of the retaining wall that's here? To make sure that this retaining wall is, because I think I agree with you. There's a wall here, and right here it is at level.
Correct.
But here it is about 4 foot behind the garage.
Behind the garage, there's a wall.
But on the other side, is that 4 feet?
It's pretty low.
So is it
The other
supporting-
side
is it pretty low?
Behind the garage, it's much
Between
lower.
On the property side, but on the neighboring side?
Neighboring side is much
Is it
lower.
lower? Yeah,
Much
I tried
lower.
to stick my head over there, but I couldn't measure it. Obviously, I didn't have a measuring tape with me.
It's
out
like
there.
3 to 4 feet.
3 to 4 feet, okay. All right, and then going to my color question, all that interlocking pavers that you have, what color are you proposing for those? Is there a material?
Earth tones.
Earth tones?
Combination of earth tones to we just more in the brown and gray and red colors. Just earth tones.
Different ones?
Different variation of it, and
more texture?
Yes, but not really heavy.
Or a
color.
blend, maybe it's a
Blend.
blend, yeah.
It's a blend.
Okay.
And this, also a color question, this color that you have the roofing is not what you're proposing.
The roof?
You're proposing a reddish Spanish tile, right? So it's
Yeah,
not a brown,
reddish.
it's not a brown.
No.
Okay.
This is the best depiction that we have, but we didn't want
This
to
is more
really put it
chocolate,
red.
so you can-
It's chocolate, yeah.
Mr. Bond, you have a question? I have a couple more since.
At first, the front elevation French door,
Mhm.
you mentioned that you decided to keep it over there. There is any function to it? Like, are you guys gonna use it like to go outside to the courtyard, or like, what's the purpose that you guys
What-
wanted there?
No, generally speaking, this first of all, the courtyard is more or less is a very usable courtyard. It's very nice. I mean, you come from both sides in. You have a nice fountain right in the middle of it. It's very low. You cannot see it from outside. But it's a landscaped area. Yes, sometimes if they want to, they can leave the door open from the dining room. They can access it there. You know what I mean? And we're not insisting on that. But generally speaking, in the first level, Spanish houses tend to have it. They have a courtyard. They tend to have a door. Otherwise, it's I mean, I'm okay if that could be one of your conditions to make it window.
Okay,
I don't
I'm
know.
just asking the question because the way
Mhm.
it is right now, the front elevation looks like the symmetry just not there. So I agree with the point that staff brought up. That's about it.
Let me add on to that question, because, okay. What about the difference in materials? You're using two different materials for the door and the window, and that one window seems to be the only window that is different material and different style.
We were talking about the picture.
Cross-sectional.
Picture
Picture
window, yeah.
window, yeah.
But he's going with that one, though.
Well, on this one, the description is still the same as that. So are you changing that to a?
It's the same. He just took the
Fiberglass?
grids out.
No. Then if we go with no grids, it's definitely going to be the same matching every other window.
Well, my question is, the materials that are called out, one I believe is a fiberglass, and the other one is a steel frame tempered glass picture window.
Correct. This was it. This
So
one
are you
here is
using
a-
a fiberglass window?
That's
now?
my intention from the very beginning to use this as a steel frame
Okay.
picture window, which sometimes you would see like they will have certain variation in the glass panes or some light colors, the variations in it. It's very classic kind of window. If you feel that's not going to be appropriate, I don't have to. And staff recommended, not against it. So that's why we changed it over here with no grids. But it's not going to be the same as steel.
Yeah, my question isn't so much about the grills. My question is about the materials. One's fiberglass, one's steel frame.
I'll keep it
Do you
all
think-
fiberglass.
Okay.
I'll match them, in other words.
Yeah, because
any other questions?
it doesn't match. That's
Mr. Malikan, do you have any
that's the
questions?
concern.
So, so on your windows and doors, on your material board calls out wood Ultratrex. What is that, Ultrex?
Well, it is a wood window with a fiberglass
Yeah.
cover. So it's a clad.
I believe Ultrex is actually a manufactured product that has wood pulp in it, but at staff level, we always call it a fiberglass window.
So it's not wood.
It's not a wood window.
Wood is on the interior. It's
It doesn't have real wood like from a tree anywhere that you can see. It's really like a fiberglass window.
And then just for public to understand, one piece as tile it's just one piece, and then the other one, it's not
That's
the
right.
two piece.
It's not
Okay.
Mrs. Harvey, can you clarify one thing for me? You have the roof plan. These, where they meet to the wall versus what you draw on the elevation, and you have I'm assuming this is flat here, but I don't see that on the elevation. If I do this, then this comes up somewhere higher, because that's closer to the window than if I do the same thing in here, then I'm here somewhere.
No, you're right.
And the same thing,
No, but you're right.
the
Same as that.
same thing happens in here. Something is not working right at this area.
This
So
is
also
hitting.
the
This
roof
is hitting it
itself.
there.
The roof itself,
top
yeah.
roof.
The top roof, something is not,
This two right here, because you have this and then break up, and then you have that. It's actually correct in the west elevation, but in the east elevation.
I think we just
yeah,
missed that.
something needs to
It needs to be
refined
revised.
there.
It's something that we went through 2 or 3 variations of it on the roof area, so maybe the depiction is not accurate as far as that's concerned.
If I'm hearing correctly, are you saying that this roof would be coming up higher?
Well,
against
yes,
this?
that may come up higher, and also this right in here.
Actually, this will come up.
Because this is so far back, this would come up considerably.
considerably.
This would be flat right here.
This, yeah, somewhere along
You
there's a
won't-
flat
You won't
piece.
see that.
Yeah.
You won't see that,
Yeah.
this.
In other words, it's not sitting on the roof inside.
The other question, why you have the cornice on the first floor, you have the cast, and then you have on the top, you have exposed rafters. Is there a reason for that? Because you're blending now with the Mediterranean and the Spanish. We're calling this is out Spanish revival, but you're throwing these cornices in there. So I don't know if that was a choice by...
No, it is a choice. I mean, there are designs that they have both play around. It doesn't have to be exactly the same material. If this was a small house, Spanish house, that was a very small house, for instance, 1 story, they tend to use just basically all wood, and then maybe it would be tiled entry when you're coming in. But this being a 2-story building, I mean, we can use multiple of materials in that way. So wood on the top, it's lighter.
Well, I like the
Because
wood on top.
yeah.
I'm not questioning the
Yeah.
top. I'm questioning the bottom. It's
The
just
cornice.
the cornice is something.
You're
Yeah.
talking about this cornice? Or which
no,
cornice?
The eave.
Oh, you mean this?
The
The eve
eave.
cornice. Oh, eve cornice. I see what you mean. They're
Yeah,
2 different.
They're, just maybe it should be consistent, but I'll leave that up to you. I need to go to the public, but we need.
Sure.
we'll come-
It's,
we'll
the reason I
get
did it
you.
is just to have a variation.
Yes, all right. All right. I'm going to go to the public. I have Peggy Bahar.
I grew up on the property to the north at 860 Cumberland Road, and so I have a big history with that property. And my dad passed away a couple years ago, and so my sister and I are the owners of record of that property. And I guess I just have a concern about. I think it'll be great improvement for the neighborhood, but I have a concern that the second story will impact the view on our patio, our little deck, and I have a picture to show you of the. This is our little deck, and that's the proposed.
You're on the south side?
No.
We're in the north.
North side,
on the north
okay,
side.
north,
We're
okay.
actually on right on Cumberland Road.
Okay.
Do you have email on that phone to be able to, or
Oh,
some
I'm
method
sorry. Yeah.
of sending it to staff so they can have it for the record?
Sure.
Yeah, in that case, I'll look at it.
I'm not the most.
We can do that later. Well, I need to continue
I see.
the hearing.
I've never
But see,
seen
this is
it
our
like
little
this.
patio, and then those flags.
It's a new era?
Yeah.
It happens at the counter all the time, but
Our view of the, which I know we don't have in your
can't
space,
check
but
your phone at the door.
I'm concerned about the light and the air that, the breeze that comes through there. And that's just, that patio is only about that big, and then the sliding glass doors from our little den come right out there. So, and we're in the Cumberland Heights. Is this in the Cumberland Heights?
No, it's not a
it's right on the
designated
border.
district, no.
So, and we can't, Cumberland Heights, we can't do anything. I think we have a double up, but we are.
Well, you need to
Will
go
you
back to
show-
speak.
Oh, I'm
Yeah.
sorry.
Will you also show that picture to Ms. Duarte so she can
Or
see
email
it
it to
and
her.
then email it to her at some point?
Yes. I lost my train of thought.
Speaking about
Oh, we have
Cumberland,
a-
District.
you're in a historical district.
Yes, we're in the historical district, and when we replaced some windows, or we couldn't replace the windows, we actually had to have the wooden windows refurbished in the front, and someone who just was walking by from the historical Cumberland Heights area walked into the front door. The door was open, and our guys were in there working, and they said, "What kind of windows? What are you doing? Are you doing any replacements?" So there really is a strong feeling about preserving the heritage and the integrity of the neighborhood, and I just am concerned that that side of the house is going to be a problem for our property and our property value, and we do have a double wide lot. So my concern is just the height of that and the fact that it's going to affect the breeze and the light.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you. Just for the record, this is not in a historical district. There was a proposal years ago, but it never materialized. Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
To the
Yeah.
property in question?
Yes.
And the house being demolished was a non-contributor in the
Non-contributor, okay.
formerly proposed district. So.
Thank you, Mr. Thank you. I'm going to go to David Kaplan.
Kaplan, right.
Yeah.
My name is David Catlin. I own two homes directly on the north side of Cumberland Road, which is the second house west of Ben Lomond, and it's a two-story Tudor. And then right next to it, or west of that, the other house that I own on the north side is a Mediterranean-style house. Just to let you know what I own. Because mine is a two-story house, I was on holiday, and Peggy called me and she said they put a bunch of flags in the neighborhood, and I said, well, they're probably going to have a party, and I later found out what those flags were for. When I came home, I went to the second story of my house, which is a bedroom that faces in a southerly direction, and I looked at that, and it appeared that the peak or the top of that flag was going to impair the view that I've enjoyed for 26 years in that house of the downtown LA area and all of that. I'm listening to this gentleman here who's saying it's only going to be 30 inches higher, and I'm not altogether sure I'm getting that information correct. But I just wanted to voice my opinion of that. Now, I probably don't have any legal recourse in objecting to the blockage of a view that's a block and a half away, but I just wanted to voice that. So, and perhaps it's something you can reply to. The double lot, Peggy asked me just to talk about the double lot. I'm a real estate broker and have been for 45 years. And wanted to know, first of all, is this property being built as a spec property, or is this being built to suit for an owner?
We can't answer that question. We don't know. That's not our preview. Well, what's going to happen.
It says the owner is Saturn Investments, LLC. So I make an opinion that perhaps this is a developer that's building the house for the purpose of selling, or it's a build-to-suit and so forth.
We can't answer that question, sir. I mean, you can consult with the applicant, the architect. He may shed some light on that for you.
Okay.
But we have no preview on that part. I mean, we can't speculate what's going to happen in the future, or whether it's going to be the owner, builder, or owner living there, or somebody else is going to be living there.
Okay, fine. I guess my only question I had, which I think has been answered, is that style of the architecture and so forth, if it is within the confines of the neighborhood and it fits in with the neighborhood. Because over 25 years that I've lived here, I've seen some pretty atrocious houses being built. One of the reasons why we did put the Cumberland Historical District together so we could try to stop that. So I'm looking at this, and it does appear to be a Mediterranean-style house, and I probably have no objection to that. I just wanted to voice that opinion. The only other question is that based on how the property is going to come down once it's built and so forth, how that's going to affect the double lot that Peggy owns. She asked me to ask that question for you. How that's going to affect the property value. That's a difficult question to answer on how it affects it. But if someone were to buy that house at 860 Cumberland Road, and with the intent of building another house next door to it, how that's going to affect the setbacks and so forth of this property. Again, it might be an architectural question.
Well, we're assuming that all the zoning requirements will be met, and they have to go through plan check, and all the zoning setbacks, they all have to be met. So there's a process before the building permit is issued. So they have to conform to all the setbacks and current standards.
Yeah, no, well, I know that. Okay, that's all I have in terms, I just wanted to voice these
Thank you.
points, okay?
There was another one.
No, I think that's all I have.
Okay.
Mr. Zarabian, you have anything to add, or?
If there's any questions.
Yeah, why don't you come up, Mr. Zarabian, or you can answer me from there. You give me that first.
The pointer.
Now, you depicted the existing house, and you're saying it's only 30 inches. This is my existing house height,
Correct.
but this is my new profile over
Correct.
here. So from here to here, I would assume, what, 3.5 feet?
No, it's like 30 inches up. It's about 3 feet.
Yeah, so there's about a 30, okay.
Yeah. The existing and what I was saying is that the existing ridge and the property to the north, they're in the same ridge. That's the same.
The existing.
Existing,
The
not
existing.
the north.
No, yeah, okay. What is it here?
If you want to fill out one of
Okay, you don't have that dimension there, okay.
keep it if they decide
That's
to
a
do
different one, okay.
So it's basically over here. And the new one proposed is like 30 inches.
We'll always need you.
Sure, go ahead.
Okay, though, but it would be proper to assume that this general volume here is an addition, because we were shown a picture with story poles from the north elevation, and I'm assuming that that's this volume here, correct? That's currently not
Added to the building itself?
It's added to the
Yes.
existing
Yes.
mass of the building.
Yeah.
That's there now.
That's true. That is true. End portion of it, right after the front.
Yeah.
And also as it goes in, it's proposed building, the way it sits on the site, is a little bit further in than the existing building. So the setback is actually more than whatever is right now.
Yeah, but your end corner is at 6 feet, though. Your end.
My proposed, yes. Yeah. No, what I'm saying is, existing is depicted here, generally, if you can take a look at it, you see? That's existing. So right now, the way it is, the picture
I'm
that we
blocking
were
your view.
looking at it, the picture that we were looking at it, it was here in this corner, which is very, very close. It's a non-conforming kind of condition. There's like 3.5 feet or 4 feet the most setback right now.
Okay.
But the building, the proposed building, is going to be away from this property further. If you can see that, that's why we
conform with setback.
exactly. So 3 feet, it's adding 3 feet to the setback actually.
I think that the neighbors are not here any longer to hear that comment, but for the record, it looks like, or they are.
The neighbors are always here.
Everything.
Is outside of view. So it looks like the setback is 3 feet, more than 3 feet,
Existing,
actually,
yes.
than the existing non-conforming condition.
Correct.
It's going to have a 6-foot setback with that,
In the median.
and at the minimum.
Is that wall, that's that 7 foot or 6 foot wall between my dad's
I
room?
can't
we
have
can't-
cross-communication, I'm sorry. You had your opportunity.
I beg your pardon.
Thank you. Okay.
Excuse or you have anything?
Any other questions, gentlemen? No?
We're good.
Thank you. All right. I'll start with you, Mr. Mulligan.
Okay. Well, as I said, the architect gave a very detailed presentation and comprehensive review of the project. For me, site plan, as I requested some clarification on that, still a little bit of a vague area for me, but understand that, things can work out itself and leave it up to the staff to review the site planning. But I think a little bit of a grading and some sort of a site conditioning of the retaining walls and other elements that is going to be required to develop this pad is going to be really necessary. It's a little bit difficult without having a section through the building and section through the entire site, and I'm not sure how staff has accepted this set, being that it's one of the requirements of the submittal is that we need to have a section to understand what is going on. I don't want to kind of use my judgment and understanding and assume certain things without understanding exactly what is going on. It's a little bit unclear for me to understand the step down and step up by sitting there and calculating all these elevations. But in overall, I think the massing and the scale, even though he's lowering the elevation or the entry level, lowering it a couple of feet or lower than what it's there now, which without knowing the section, I don't know what that elevation is. He's actually raising that, but he's articulating the elevations, which is good, which is it helps the facade. In my opinion, I think the west elevation is a lot more appealing, in my opinion, than the east elevation. I think there's a lot of elements there that it's going to, once it gets cleaned up and drawn properly, I think it's going to be a little bit different than what we're looking at right now. So it's going to be up to staff to review the differences and make a judgment, clear judgment of if it's fine, if it's not fine, if they need to go back. So overall, I think the design is nice. I think it fits the neighborhood. I think it's well designed. I would have liked to have a more consistent, rather than either a Spanish revival or a Mediterranean, which direction it was going. I think it's a merge of both architectures and a lot of details there that are not consistent, like you mentioned. Also, the front elevation, you have too many different types of windows and surroundings and other things. I think I would like to see that a lot more consistent. One of the things that I noticed when I was at the site, it was, as you walk down the driveway, it's pretty tall. I mean, the wall there is a pretty substantial wall standing there. I mean, I had to kind of look up, and thank God I had the glasses because the sun was in my eye. It was actually going to be taller than what it is because I was trying to understand the flags. So by putting this very tall building against the driveway, I think it would allow, if there is room to plant or something or somehow soften up the building rather than having this tall building sitting against the driveway, somehow softening up that the connection of the two to minimize the impact. So maybe that is
Talking
more of
the
a
south
vision.
elevation?
Yeah, along the driveway. I think I see this, but when I look at the elevation, I look at this, and this thing is a pretty tall. So there's a lot of breakups, which is fine. But if that would be a consideration on my part to add on, if we can somehow soften up this point, that this tall element. In the back, again, it's working really well. You have some open spaces, you have landscaping, you have a planter, you have a low balcony, and then you have a building that is pushed back. So I think they all work together really well. As far as the retaining walls, again, it's up to staff how they want to deal with that. I would have liked to see a little bit more detailed site conditions of adjacent grades and elevations of some of these retaining walls. I understand it can be done, but it's doable, but it would have been nice to see that. Overall, it's fine. I think staff's comments are well taken, and I agree with them. Two other items that I would like for you guys to, one is the fiberglass windows. I'm not sure if we want to go with that. This type of architecture, I don't know if we want to get into and getting into a next level of possibly a wood window. The second thing is the one-piece Spanish tile. That I would probably have a two-piece Spanish tile, and I like the darker color in my opinion.
Color,
the chocolate color rather than the terracotta or dark chocolate or the terracotta color. So those things to discuss amongst ourselves, I guess.
Well, those are good points, but before I go somewhere, I mean, we've emphasized, I'm just saying it to staff, we've emphasized this several times about having sections and renderings before
Yeah,
come to the hearing.
it was an
Same feeling.
it was an oversight in this case. Sections are not a requirement of every submittal. We have staff
But this is a new
discretion on
house.
that. This house, we would have had sections, just so you know. But for a simple house, or a simple project on a flat site, we don't always look for sections. Generally, when something comes to the board, though, you will get sections.
Thank you. Mr. Charchin?
Sure, thank you, Chairman. Overall, I think the house does fit the neighborhood. My concerns in walking the lot this morning was how deep you're going to place the garage and the large amount of coverage of the driveway. You are using a semi-permeable membrane, being the interlocking paver, so that's a good thing. But I am concerned. I want my colleagues to comment on the overall coverage here. You have a pool deck. You have the pavers, the landscaping leaves less space for landscaping. I agree with the comment that on the south elevation there should be some sort of coverage for that volume. This volume here from the neighbor and even from the streets are kind of large. Maybe, and I think this is the kitchen, correct? Mm-hmm. Right. So maybe the introduction of a window or something to break this volume would be desirable, unless this is all, I don't know, pantry. I can't imagine it being that way, but
It's shown as
like
all
it could.
cabinets.
it
Yeah,
seems like there
the
could
only
be,
window is from the side underneath the porch.
right.
And
There
it's
could be something there to break up that volume. I disagree with the staff's comment about the requirement for a single window. I think Spanish style lends itself to a double door entry of this style. The windows need to be of the same material. This shifting of materials, I think, over time, especially, is going to cause a major problem. I'm facing that problem now at my house, where there's an addition done and improper materials were used, and so you have it look pretty, for lack of a better word, ugly. Luckily, my issue is in the back. Here in the front, you have this different materials. The architect has already said that they'd address it, so I wouldn't make that a condition. And then there's one other area. Oh, yes. I'm very glad that the architect has included a refuse location on A3.1. I think the area for your trash bins is too small for a residence of this size, so you might want to consider either an alternative location, or I don't know if you can deepen that area easily, or address that with that little nook that you have between the dining room, because I think with this particular driveway, you're going to have a lot of use, and I don't think 3 bins, as depicted, will be sufficient. Privacy and that is all my comments. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Charchin. Mr. Bellamy?
I will keep it short, and I will not repeat everything my colleagues have said. But yeah, I think it's well designed overall. I have similar comments on the front elevation, just to keep the windows consistent. And I agree with staff that French door would be, it'll look nicer if it's a window, in my opinion. And I think we'll make that maybe a consideration if my colleagues agree. And south elevation is fine to me with the comments that my colleagues mentioned. I have few issues with the north elevations, and I think staff had raised this issue, and I think during your presentation you've mentioned that you have some closet areas that you can basically use to articulate and break up the mess. for the north elevation. I mean, if you do that, overall the design is nice, it fits the neighborhood, the style is nice, and I agree with Mr. Malikian, it should be a two-piece tile. And that's about it.
Thank you, Mr. Billion. I concur with my colleagues. I think they're all good points. We need to make sure this retaining wall works. Whatever grading you're doing, the two-piece tile, I think with this style is appropriate. And I think we need to keep the eaves consistent. I don't know if we've got any, whether it's Mediterranean or, I think the direction of the style is well done, but the front elevation, as I mentioned earlier, needs to be refined. That roof needs to be worked out. I don't know what's going to change there and how that thing is going to look like, but please refine it in a way that doesn't become just like a little mansard roof, because the area is too tight. But the main concern that I have, my colleagues didn't touch on it. I understand you're creating the pad, you're dropping the building, but I think there's about a couple of feet you can drop this building down. You have 10-foot ceiling heights. The reason I'm saying you're sticking up, it feels the building is top-heavy, in my opinion, but I'll leave that. If I'm looking at this elevation in here, I'm really going higher. I mean, it should really blend in, with the profile of the street. I feel that building should come down at least 2 feet. The detailing, as mentioned, everybody, I'm not going to get into it, but the only concern is to drop the building down a couple of feet. I don't know if you have an issue with that, Mr. Zarabian. I feel it'll help the scale. It just, even in the back, it looks it's too narrow, Yeah, I'll open the public hearing, but let me finish. But the two-piece tile, yeah, and, one thing I suggest if my colleagues are, not necessarily with windows, but aluminum clad also works in this.
Fiberglass, then it's fine.
I mean, but if you feel fiberglass is, then I'm good.
Okay.
And I'll open the public hearing, Mr. Zarabian. You can come up.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. If you would like, I'd like to keep the first plate line, 10, because anything lower than that, because of the beams and structure, is going to happen, because I can, perceive what's going to happen. But the second floor, I'm okay if you want to drop a little bit, from 10 to maybe 9, perhaps, on the second floor.
Yeah, I just feel it's
if that's the general consensus.
too tall for the mass, for the narrowness of the building.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I don't know if my colleagues
if
feel different.
I would be okay for the second floor if we go that direction.
I think there's opportunities to play with the plate heights as well. So you can have, rather than one continuous plate height, or all the spaces on the second floor, if we're going to lower just the upper level to 9 feet, there's room, like, for example, where the bathroom location is. If this thing comes down to 9 feet, we can lower this to 8 feet so that you have a breakup in the elevations of these.
Yeah, but overall mass, I'm saying it needs to drop. That's right. Good articulation, that's what you're saying?
What is the, one thing, what is the...
It's 412.
4 and 12?
And it could go down to 3.5 or even
That's
3.
That's what I was going to say. My next.
Normally, I'm sorry, Trevor.
Go ahead.
Normally, if this was like a single story being demolished or an empty lot, and you had this much mass on it, I would agree that it would need to be lowered. But here we have the condition of a pretty massive structure with a very large and ugly volume on the south elevation as is. So, I can go either way.
My several times, this is not the first building that I've done, but when we are lowering the ceiling height, it causes so much problems structurally afterwards when we are going to the building and safety. When we are putting together structural drawings, it always causes for the ceiling to be much lower than what we are imagining. It doesn't, sometimes it really creates, especially in the first floor. So that's what I'm saying. In the second floor, we have opportunities of treating the roof differently as far as structure
I'm looking
is
at your
concerned.
floor plan. Your spans are not that large. You got 13 and a half, 13 in the front living room. Then the only span that you have is large is the kitchen, the 19 and a half.
Yeah, I like if you would let me do it, because I have also
I'll entertain
air conditioning
that,
ducts and everything to worry about. So at least the first floor, if you can stay 10, the second floor, I can compromise on that.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much.
All right, public hearing is closed, and
So what are we doing for the height?
for the height, I suggested it. I said,
What do you want to do?
I mean, another foot will help, but, you know, I think the 3 to 12 pitch is a good approach, but, you know, you won't be able to see much of the tile if we're going to go two-piece.
Right, and the only downside of 312 is, especially at the first floor in the front, you're going to be exposing
Yeah.
more wall, and the proportions might change.
4 and 12 is fine. I think lowering the upper level to 9 feet, and, you know, I think the first floor,
Yeah, I mean,
allow the architect to figure out what the number is, but I guess what you're saying is to lower the first floor too, if possible.
if possible, but if it doesn't
If it
work,
doesn't
you know,
work, then it
then
doesn't work.
it goes up. But that was only my, main comment, and keep the eaves consistent. That's
Should we have a condition to lower the second floor to 9 feet
9
and a
feet, yes.
consideration to lower the first floor to 9 feet
yes.
It's a consideration.
for the first floor?
Or should it be an overall reduction of 1 foot for the building?
However he can achieve.
Okay.
For the-
But I want to make sure that front elevation works with that, the ridges or the hips that he's creating, when it comes up higher. I want to make sure.
We'll definitely make sure that's
fine,
not
'cause
an
if
awkward. I think it'll look better than it does on the
Right, with 8
elevation,
inches
actually.
and-
So.
Yeah.
You can put 8 inches, 4 inches to achieve that 1 foot.
Okay.
So we're going to lower the height by 1 foot by
foot.
whatever means possible.
Whatever means possible.
Okay.
So, can I take a motion?
Want me to
Are we ready
read
for a
back? I had a lot of question marks next to. I think there was a growing consensus, but I just want to make sure. We're going to ask for clarification of the site plan, basically redoing the site plan to show the graded areas and to indicate the conditions of the perimeter walls, whether they're block walls, whether they have a retaining component or not, so that we have a better understanding of the site. We're going to look at a new site section so that we better understand the relationship of the house to the new site, to understand if there are any grade changes or anything else, and to just have it memorialized there. We will allow Mr. Zarabians to decide which way he wants to go on the detailing of the eaves, whether he wants to have a cornice or an open eave with I guess, rafter tails. Or they're actually brackets, it looks like.
So, Mr. Pod, you're
Just to bring consistency between the second floor eave and the first floor eave in whichever, what I heard is you didn't have a preference which way to go.
We want it to be consistent.
Eliminate the cornices.
Eliminate the cornices. So it's not a.
Oh, I thought you were okay with the cornice as long as that was
That's what
consistent.
you also said too.
No, I just said consistency.
Consistency, so-
I don't care, whichever.
Ultimately, I personally think that the bracketed eaves give it a little more detail and character, a little less. But
That's
it's not
fine.
my decision.
I'm okay with that.
Okay.
Okay, so we will have eaves so that the first floor eaves reflect the design of the second floor eaves as proposed. There's a condition to simplify the window types at the front facade to make them more consistent.
Yes.
There's what I heard was a consideration, but might be a condition to soften the driveway edge with additional planting at the south side of the property.
it's not clear if that's possible, so I would leave
That's
that
a
as
consideration.
Leave that as a consideration. We heard that all staff comments were supported, including the redesign of the north facade. I think we understand condition 2 about the 2 sets of doors at the rear. We did hear differences of opinion, or I'm not sure, the front door, single or double. We heard that double was okay. Staff?
I'm okay with double, honest.
Okay, so we'll eliminate staff.
That was my. That was.
adamant.
Well, I think it wasn't pretty adamant. I mean, I think if you have a single door with that size, it's going to be a 6-foot door, right?
No,
So-
but you can have a 3 and a
Two
side
side
lights.
lights.
We
Sidelights
just
would
base
look-
this on traditional, houses like this typically don't have double doors in the
But they
traditional
won't
world.
have an
but-
arced.
They will also won't have an arced entry.
You have a.
Sometimes our country, most Spanish houses have single one, but
But
this is a
so
more
we'll eliminate
contemporary
this. We'll
approach,
eliminate
so-
the staff condition number 3. We'll make sure there are sills under all the windows. Any windows that have buttons will have simulated divided lights. We'll get a sample of the driveway material. Was the board okay with the color range? I wasn't sure if you'd prefer a consistent tone or a range of colors
On the
For
tile?
for the driveway paving.
Yeah, I mean, a blend will be fine. I mean, it doesn't.
Yeah.
So color blend is okay.
Color
But
blends.
but I think we did have consensus on the.
On the roof tile,
Yeah.
I don't know if it's Mr. Zarabin. Are you set on that the terracotta color tile or?
One piece, the only thing is that when you're one piece tile, it's a clay tile.
Can you come up? I'll open the public.
For the record, Hamlet Zorabians. The one-piece tile, you'll be limited on the color because I heard 2 things. Because if you're going to go with a dark chocolatey color or something, I can't get it in a clay tile. It has to be a lightweight concrete. And that's not going to give you the same effect as the 2-piece. You see what I mean? So if you go 2-piece, there are variations. It's
We're
not.
going with 2 piece.
Okay, if you're going to
two-piece,
two-piece,
because-
then it's going to be a little bit darker color, but it's not like the chocolatey color or that you
Or
were
as
saying.
dark as you can. I'm not saying dark chocolate, but
Yeah,
Redland
yeah,
makes
yeah.
good tile.
Yes, exactly.
I think the color that we see, the selection of the off-white with
Right.
the brown.
It's sharper.
trims and
It's sharper, yeah.
char-
The milk
I think-
chocolate.
I think that the
Dark
renderings, the depiction of the renderings are much more
Okay.
pleasant than.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
Continuing with the staff conditions, we had a consideration about the French doors at the front. We heard one board member prefer windows for that left side of the front door. Is there any consensus there?
I don't mind that. The only thing is that I think the trimming and the window treatments around the sill and the header, and they should be consistent. And if it is going to be something different, then let it be a different type of window, like shape, and everything is completely different. But if it's square and it's proportioned almost the same way, it's.
Okay, and would the board rather see the stucco bullnose at most of those front openings to make it more consistent with the side also, or? Right now, I believe it's
Surrounds?
cast stone surrounds at the
surrounds
front.
you're talking about?
Yeah.
That's the only one that has a cast stone, right? That's the
Oh, I
only-
thought, I'm
that's
sorry,
the
I
only
thought,
Picture window.
oh, it's just the picture window, right?
Yeah.
Okay,
Picture window.
so we'll let the
which is
picture window
fine,
be
but-
its own thing.
But if it is picture window and if it's cast, then I don't know if getting rid of the buttons, having that metal frame, I don't know if it makes sense. That's the whole thing. It's-
Okay, so we'll have a fiberglass picture window with the cast stone surround to give it more emphasis. So,
That's fine.
okay. And two-piece tile with the darker chocolatey goodness. I heard a concern about the depth of the garage and the amount of paving that led to. Was there consensus on that?
I appreciate the applicant that located the garage in the back side, which is, historical for those areas, but I don't know, are you talking about the depth of, the...
That was from Board Member Charchin.
Sure. My concern overall was that the overall coverage with hardscaping and the pool deck and the home and also the front hardscaping for the fountain area was somewhat excessive.
The detached
he does
garage
have some
can go
landscaping
up
in
to
here.
the property line, right?
He's got a landscaping on the property
Not
line.
with the
if I'm looking at
Sorry,
this.
not
one.
with the attached storage
Achieve
and
that because he also mentioned that he's going to keep
Not when it's an attached.
He also
what?
mentioned he's going to
with
keep
the storage, right?
the
You can go to the property.
retaining wall, which is on
if
the
it's
property line.
detached.
Not with the storage.
It has
Yeah.
a storage unit, so it
We
can't.
can make a.
So if it's a storage unit, it needs to be set back
If it
from
were
the property line?
if it were just a garage, it could go
It
to the
could be at the
property line.
That's correct.
I see, and that is the reason. But it just, I mean, where is the storage? I mean, just that bathroom itself triggers that?
It says bicycle storage on the drawing.
Right next to the garage.
Just a little square, like a closet
Yeah.
there.
That
Right.
little closet thing that says it's a bicycle storage, if that thing is erased and it's part of the garage, then
The
it's...
whole part.
And the
So this
patio.
whole
That
thing
whole part.
triggers that, okay.
I'm going to ask the applicant to come up. Is there room to make the
No, we
paved area? Or are we,
No, that's what they were saying, that's what I was asking.
okay.
Because of that covered area, they're considering as an accessory, so that he needs to have that
No,
5
no,
foot.
I was talking about the driveway. He's talking about too much paver.
Oh,
Hold on. On the side, is there room to add a little more planter on the side?
I can actually.
Please open the hearing.
Bands of grass inserts in between if you want to.
There's a limited amount of, when you look at the,
Otherwise, it's going to be tough.
you know, when you look at the radius for entry into the garage, there's a small area that could become additional landscape,
so one
that
more
area.
educational question. So the 6 foot setback is based on the house setback, or isn't it detached accessory structure, so it needs to be a 5 foot setback, or it
Still a
needs to?
6 foot setback. It's considered a new structure.
So it's a new structure, it's considered as, okay.
If it was just a guest house on its own or living area on its own, it would still have the 6 foot setback.
The only thing can go to the setback line is the garage.
Detached garage.
So, but it has nothing to do with the height anymore, it's more of a new structure, it needs to be minimum setback, which is 6 feet.
That's correct.
Okay. All right, Mr. Platts.
Continuing, trash area looks too small, enlarge the trash area, that's okay?
Consideration.
Consider. Okay, we have a, okay, the French door is staying at the front. There was agreement for articulation at the north. Some of these are repeating themselves. We're going to have a condition to revise the front elevation, especially the roof at the first floor, to make sure that the drawings are first accurate, and then once we see what that looks like, to make sure it's a balanced composition in
Yes.
keeping with the overall design. To reduce to some degree the top-heavy appearance of the current proposal, we are going to ask that the height be reduced by 1 foot in whatever way possible. And that's everything that I've got.
Okay, is that satisfactory?
I think we have one other one. We didn't get to the landscape plan.
Okay.
So, of course, in keeping with the drought-tolerant landscaping, do we want to have that as a condition?
It's a mandatory requirement.
Mandatory requirement now? Okay,
Yeah.
so we don't have to...
Okay.
So the lawn is out.
Certain lawns are drought tolerant.
Okay.
So,
Okay.
Cool. I'll take a motion.
I'll move to approve the project with conditions and comments.
I'll second that.
Thank you. Roll call, please.
Board Member Chartian,
Yes.
Board Member Benlian,
Yes.
Board Member Malikian,
Yes.
Board Member Chairs Mardian.
Yes.
So it's approved with conditions, 4-0.
Mr. Chairman, we have one set of minutes for the board to approve from the September 10th meeting.
Yeah, I was absent, and Mr. Simonian was absent, so,
And I was absent too.
no, you were here according to the
Was
stock.
Did you want to hold on to?
Well, there's 3 of them here, so however you wish. You want to approve the minutes of September 10th?
Yeah, I'll make a, so we were, yeah, three of us were. So I will make a motion to approve the minutes of September 10th.
We have a second?
Roll call?
Mr. Malikian?
Aye.
Mr. Charchian?
Yes.
Mr. Benlian?
Yes.
Chairman Mardian?
Yes. Oh, no.
Abstain.
Yeah, sorry. Before we close, I don't know if I could comment on this, Mr. Platter or Mr. Cullen. On the minutes of the last meeting, I got them, but one item that I'm not sure if that's the only thing we asked for. I don't know if we can.
For Rather's project?
For Rather's project on Colina.
I know that there was the discussion mainly of providing some sort of examples or studies on whether or not a one-story could be done.
Yes, but I don't know if Mr. Benley was here. He can correct me, but I asked for also a second-story elevation or having a two-story version. Because I
Well,
don't want to.
the board's already looked at, I don't recall that. The board's already looked at a two-story elevation.
For a more of a modern approach, contemporary approach, lower profile.
You basically kept it open.
Open? Okay.
So you said they're going to have to present basically a one story and show us if it works or doesn't work. And then you kept it open if they're going to come up with a two-story different design.
Okay.
That sounds right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right.
Have a motion for adjournment?
Chairman, we're adjourned.
Motion adjourned.